Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. Well, viewers, the first time I drove a Grande Punto was in the northwest in very windy conditions in December, and a year later here's another Grande Punto, and it's in the northwest and it's in windy conditions. This is a 2009 Fiat Grande Punto 1.4 active. This is a slightly later one than the previous one, which was a 5-door and a 1.2, so they are a little bit different. They're not, that different really, but this is different enough to merit a review. And of course, Carl, who owns this car, has had a number of cars on the channel now, actually. I think that the colour of this car is very nice. One thing that's interesting is that the designed by Giugiaro badge is missing from this later example. This is just before the car was renamed the Punto Evo in 2010, which then came with a different range of engines and a different design, but fundamentally the same. In 2012 the car was renamed again just to the Punto. By that stage the Mark II Punto had been out of production for a while, so there was no way of confusing the Grande Punto and the standard Punto. I think it is quite a good looking car. It's based on the same platform as the Alfa Mito and the Corsa D, the later Corsa E. I think the Adam is quite similar to this as well, actually, that's shortened. But it came from a time when General Motors and Fiat had a bit of a tie-up, which of course has long since gone. Still got just wheel trims on this active model. There are a few improvements over the previous one, but nothing really to note. The main thing is the badge is red because in 2008 Fiat changed their badges from blue to red for whatever reason. If we go in here, we can see that the documents are open. The doors open very, very wide. I mean, if you had someone who had mobility challenges, it might be something to consider getting one of these. Let's see if my documents aren't going in there either, viewers. There's no way. I don't even need to try. They're not going in there at all. I don't know why it says the Edizione on the mat. Maybe that's just something aftermarket, I'm not sure. As is always, I'm going to have to try getting the back, aren't I? That looks actually not too bad. There we go. So if I put this back, viewers, that's okay. Could have gone a little bit forward for me, but it's alright. There's plenty of headroom in here. Nothing too fancy. There's no rear armrest in here. This is actually it's plastic. One thing that's interesting is this car doesn't have adjustable height seat belts, but never mind. For a base model, and the Active was the base model, it doesn't feel too much like that. The trim quality is actually quite nice in here. I know that Matt from High Peak Autos picked one of these up quite recently for, I think, less than £500 or something like that. It was an engine that we can't talk about, so we won't, because we don't talk about diesels on this channel, viewers, if you know. Cup holder down here, just very simple and been practical really. I think I still prefer the 5-door version. It's a bit easier to get in and out, but this is okay. One nice thing is there's a little Grande Punto logo on the dash. I don't think we actually got anything sort of real metal or anything, that's just plastic. It's okay. These headlamps still look pretty good, they're not too cloudy or anything. Yeah, this car could benefit from some alloy wheels. That's why you want to step up to the dynamic trim. And above that, those the sporting and the eleganza. Those are the sort of main standard trims for one of these cars. I just noticed I've got a footrest in here. That's nice for comfort and things. One thing that's different about this 2009 car as opposed to 2007 is the fact that you actually get a proper display in there. It's not the biggest, but you can see a few more things. And even on this active trim model, there is a chrome ring around the instruments, which is quite nice. That would be for the Fiat Blue and Me system. That was something to do with Bluetooth at the time, I can't remember exactly. Let's pop the boot. That works. 5-speed manual. Pretty weird on these Fiats of the time. They didn't put the reverse kind of directly below 5th. You can see there's a little cutout here where 6 would be. Weird. Nice normal handbrake. Cigarette lighter. And very basic, familiar controls. There's the city button for the steering. No air conditioning in this car because it's the base model, but it doesn't feel too bad quality actually in here. The interior really doesn't feel too bad for a car of this price. Take a look and see if we've got some space at the back. Because one of the things that this car sort of excelled at actually was the amount of space in it. You have much more space in here than say a Corsa. Yeah, it's not the biggest, but you've got to remember the size of thing that this competed against. Things like the at the time be the Mark 6 Fiesta. One of the cars was launched in 2005 and then later the Mark 7s, of course. No split folding rear seat in this one. You could get that higher up the range. Quite a big lip, but then that's pretty normal actually. Nice clean rear design. Very sort of unadorned and unfussy, which I like. Right, I think I'll get the key and we'll have a look at this new style dash. So viewers, there we go, we've got the right front door open. I wonder if we can do something with this menu here. Yeah, there we go, look at that. So that's the date. There's the mileage, there's the time. Just cycling through a few things. Can we go up and down and see what that does? There we go, yes. Light intensity. Escape. Not a lot of kind of functions on here, but it's a base model, what do you expect? Stereo I'm not going to turn on because we might get copyright infringement, which wouldn't be too good. Very thin door pockets, surprisingly so actually. Not a lot going on the door cards really. It's all sort of hard plastic, but that's not really a surprise for a car like this. Could do with a leather steering wheel, but you'd have to go up to a higher trim to get that. Do have little sort of courtesy lights here. But yes, you know, this would be fine for what most people would need. And we've got stereo controls for the phone connection on here as well, if you can get that to work. Right, so take a look at the engine. So 1.4 8-valve fire engine in this car. In this case, generating 76 horsepower. These engines do have a timing belt, so just make sure that's been done before you consider one of these cars, or just factor that in. Not bad in terms of accessibility. I know these cars do have a lot of electrical issues though, so just make sure you check all those before you actually buy one. I can't remember if the ECU is in a vulnerable place like it is on the Fiat 500 that have this engine. Obviously we said it was used from about 1985 until, well, present day in some certain Abarth 595 and 695 models, variations of this, so it's very easy to find parts of these. And actually the later you go with the fire engines, the less prone they are for things like head gasket failure. You just got to look after them and they'll be okay. Not really an awful lot to say about this really. Why don't we go for a drive? That might be nice. So the basic engine in the Grande Punto was a 1.2 with 64 horsepower. To be honest, that engine didn't feel too underpowered in the one that I I drove the car I had last year, but we did only drive around a little bit of West Kirby, so yeah. Immediately this one with 76 horsepower, 1.48 valve, does seem a lot better. It seems a lot more responsive. There was also a 16 valve version of this engine which generated 94 horsepower. And then you got into the really interesting stuff. These are all based on the old fire engine which came out in about 1985, and I think it's still in production just about for the Abarth models of the 595, 695, that kind of stuff. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. It's a 120 horsepower T-Jet, and then there were some more interesting engines with the Abarth models. The Abarth actually had power output of about 150 horsepower, but that increased to about 155 if you use 97 octane fuel. Of course, you could run it on either 95 or 97, but if you wanted the full performance, you had to use 97 octane fuel. With the SS model, that actually generated a whopping 180 horsepower, which I'm sure was interesting for lots and lots and lots of tyre squeal. I've actually been offered an SS model to drive at some point when it's back on the road, so let me know if you want to see that in the comment section below. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. So, considering this is based on the same platform as the Alfa Mito and the Corsa D, it does feel very much like a Corsa D. It's not really a surprise. Obviously, the suspension's been tuned a little bit differently in this car. Power steering is very light, so I can make it even more ridiculously light by pressing this button here, which goes to the city mode, which now there's absolutely no resistance whatsoever. And I think I'll turn that off because I don't really need it to be in the city mode. Gearbox is okay. It's not the nicest. It reminds me of these old Fiat Uno gearboxes, which always were a little bit on the notchy side. Ride's okay. One really weird thing is that you twist the stalk to actually change the level of wiping that you want on the windscreen. You don't actually just pull it up and down, which is a bit like the old Rover R8s, that kind of thing. It's very good. There's no real surprises with this car. It's not really the most exciting thing, but neither is it the worst. It's absolutely fine. I think I do prefer this to something like a Corsa D, although the Corsa D would, you know, have that crazy VXR model. Those are really quick. Those had even more power than the SS Abarth. So viewers, with peculiar lighting, let's have a look at some trim levels for the Fiat Grande Punto. There's the active base model like this, although it doesn't feel like a base model really. It's got the electric mirrors and you know, the city function on the power steering. It doesn't feel like a base model to me in many ways. Active Sport, Active White, the dub, and then the Dynamic and Dynamic Sport. I imagine the Dynamic was the most popular model. Eleganza was the top of the range one in terms of luxury. Then there were the GP and sporting models, and then at the top the Abarth versions, the Abarth and the Abarth SS. So should you consider Fiat Grande Punto for your hard-earned budget up to £1,000, well, this car cost £900, so these are still very firmly within no budget reviews territory. I don't think this is too bad a car, really, viewers. The interior, these always surprised me actually how nice they are. They don't feel bad at all. I'd probably want a higher trim than this, and you know, it does concern me with all these electrical faults that I hear about with them, but apart from that, they seem pretty good to me. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring.